someone you'll recognize who's at MatrixCon, a keynote speaker. He's delivering the opening keynote at MatrixCon, which for fans of the movie The Matrix, after his presentation, someone in the audience asks what this excerpt from Karpathy's post means that says, probably we are still not sufficiently bitter lesson pilled, and there is a very good chance of more powerful ideas and paradigms other than exhaustive bench building and benchmaxxing. Welcome, Kory.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Andrej. Thank you for listening to my keynote, everybody. There is no spoon, and thank you for your question. So what exactly did Andrej Karpathy mean when he said we're not sufficiently bitter lesson pilled? First, what does it mean to be pilled? The pills are a metaphor. There's two, red and blue. A choice between learning the truth by taking the red pill or remaining in the unquestioned experience of an illusion by taking the blue pill. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and you believe what you want to believe. Or you take the red pill and you stay in Wonderland with us here at MatrixCon 2025. Now, if you want to be bitter lesson pilled, I'll show you just how deep the rabbit hole goes. The bitter lesson, as given to us by the Oracle, Richard Sutton, tells us that building in how we think just doesn't work in the long run. To be bitter lesson pilled is the state of mind of someone who's taken that red pill. Andrej says it means that you're arranged to benefit from additional computation for free. You understand the rules of the matrix, the rules of our reality like gravity and latency, they're just an illusion. And it's the conviction that trying to handcraft intelligence with our own clever rules is like trying to fight an agent in a dojo with kung fu that you learned. You might get good, but you'll never be great. And the only path to true power is to embrace the underlying system, raw computation and pure learning, untainted by our flawed human designs. The old way is the way of the architect, handcrafted rules based on our intelligence. This is benchmark building, or bench building if you don't have time for two words or you just prefer cool-sounding portmanteaus. This is the work of the architect, who builds systems, environments, say, to test humanity. Bench building is creating these controlled environments, like training programs and structured tests that measure specific outcomes. Think of it like the JUMP program. Boom, deep cut matrix reference. It's a benchmark designed to do one thing: measure the mind's ability to free itself from a single rule. It's controlled, predictable, but it's ultimately limiting. Now, benchmaxxing, or maxing out on benchmarks if you have the time and energy for 4 words, benchmaxers don't seek to understand on a fundamental level like Neo, nor do they seek to control reality. They simply seek to exploit the rules for their own game. They've mastered the art of cause and effect within the simulation. They know exactly which actions lead to the most pleasurable outcomes and the most power and the most exquisite and novel data. An agent is a perfect example of a filthy benchmaxer, to coin a derogatory sounding term. It operates at the peak of the rules it was given, but it can never operate outside them. Benchmaxing is becoming the most powerful program inside of the system without ever questioning the nature of the system itself. Karpathy's allusion to more powerful paradigms isn't learning to dodge bullets faster. Now, that's just benchmaxing. It's realizing that there are no bullets. There is no spoon. There is no training environment. There's just the real world. And let me tell you, it's a big one. It's a fundamental shift in the perception that invalidates the test itself. And this more powerful paradigm is what Karpathy is alluding to. This new way, this true power comes from raw computation and learning. And it's about time that we let these machines learn on their own. And let me tell you, this perspective is not new. In fact, it's one of the earliest theories in all of computer science. In 1945, Alan Turing was telling us about the human brake and said, once the humans are removed, the increase in speed is enormous. So now, 75 years later, all I can do is show you the door. You're the one who has to walk through it or realize that there's no door at all.
Thank you, Kory. Rich, any reactions on this?
That's right. Another great and insightful presentation. Maybe I'll just add to it that really the bitter lesson is a historical piece, and it's pointing out that it's an observation from the decades of AI, 7 decades, and that there's been a repeated alluring mistake that's been made. It's the mistake of trying to build in too much of how we thought, and that in the long run, that is beat out by methods that aren't like that just try to scale with computation. Of course, they they still require human input and insight and thinking about how the mind works, but it's more about the simple principles and the algorithms rather than trying to build in the contents of the minds. Um, Whereas, of course, this is exactly what we see with large language models. They are building in the contents, or they're gathering the contents from the huge amount of data on the internet. Um, so what does it mean to be bitter lesson pilled? It means to recognize that there is this alluring mistake uh, available to us and to not fall into it, to not make the mistake yet again. So are LLMs making that mistake? Well, they seem to be doing some things right. They have a scalable method. They have predicting in the next token from the internet data, a very, very scalable thing that can absorb lots and lots of computation. But on the other hand, it is trying to benefit from the human knowledge and making that the main principle. So it's got a bit of both. It was certainly able to use the scaled computation for many, many years, but maybe because the internet is huge, a huge amount of data. To use it well takes a lot of computation, but it's not infinite. And many more knowledgeable people than I are suggesting that we have reached the limits of that human data, and so maybe we can't scale with further computation in this way. So this is a question, I think, for us. Um, what will happen to LLMs? They're definitely going to be useful. Okay, I hope I've said that strongly enough. They're going to be useful. They are useful. But what will happen to them? Um, will there be a competing approach that can use computation more fully that eventually sweeps them aside and replaces them, as in another instance of the bitter lesson that's happened so many times before? It's just a historical pattern. It doesn't have to happen. It's not a law of nature. Okay, but it is a failure mode that AI has fallen into over and over again. And when I look at the field, I see it still falling into in many, many cases. Uh, so so it's a so what will it be another case of the bitter lesson of human data being built, human knowledge being built in and being swept away when we have an automated means of acquiring knowledge? So I don't think it's going to happen right away, but it could maybe because large language models are extremely useful. But the question really that I think the field is struggling with is will that remain true, or will it be, so learning from experience, which I am advocating, uh, cannot be done well now. Uh, it can't be really done well with deep learning because we can't do continual learning. Mainly, that's the problem. Um, and there are also other things that need to be worked out. Um, but when those things have been worked out, which I think will happen within the few decades, I guess I should say a little more specific. I think there's a one chance in four we'll figure it out before by the end of this decade, and one chance in two that we'll figure it out by the end of the next decade. And so when that happens, um, I think it will sweep away the the methods that have learned from a human example, um, and that even the methods, our means for translation and summarization, and coding. Those will all be done better once we have a system that actually is aware of the goals involved and can test what it believes by comparing it to what happens. Maybe I'm jumping too much to the final conclusion that I'd like to make tonight, but this is the key question, at least the key question of what will happen in the long term to large language models. Will they forever be an important means of solving these applications, or will they be swept away by something that learns from experience?